Michael Dellamonica, welcome to Business Profiles.
Oh, thank you, Mickey.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And I'm looking forward to you being on the show because you are an entrepreneur that has currently been operating a number of businesses and have done in the past and continue to do so. But explain to us what some of those businesses have been.
Well, for the past 30 years, I've been in the kitchen cabinet business and done that for quite a long time.
Yes.
And the last 5 years, I ventured out into the restaurant business and have a Mexican restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and a network marketing business as well. So I stay pretty busy.
Are you always looking for new business ventures as an entrepreneur, or do you just focus on those that you're working on currently?
To be honest with you, I'm always open-minded. I'm always looking. That's something that I enjoy doing.
Now, your background, where were you raised?
I was raised in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Brooklyn boy.
Yep.
Right out of Bay 13th Street and 86th Street.
Did you come from a family that had a business background?
Yeah, well, my dad was in the restaurant nightclub business.
He was?
Yes, in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. So, yeah, I do.
So you learned from him?
I learned a lot about the restaurant and nightclub business.
Sure.
But then I kind of drifted and went on my own way.
Yeah, yeah. When you reflect back on business, what would you consider to be the biggest lesson you learned from your dad watching him operate business?
People skills. You know, smiling. People like to be recognized. People love to be recognized. Remember people's names. It goes a long way.
It really does, but that's a talent. That's a talent. Politicians have to have it, but is there a secret on how you do it?
Yeah, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie.
Right.
It was a book I read many years ago.
How do you remember the names? Do you put, I mean, how do you do it?
It's just something that you know, really made an impact on me, that book, and something I read many times.
Right. So when people come to your restaurants and they come a second time, you try to remember their first name?
I do. I have a little habit. Try to say their name 5 times to myself.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
When did you start? What was your first business, and when did you start that business?
Well, my first business was in the kitchen cabinet business. I was actually a dealer in Las Vegas for 12, 13 years. I moved back, and
we certainly want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But the cabinet was. Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. My first business was a restaurant bar that I opened up in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, called Mickey's Appetizer. And something I had seen in Las Vegas. There was a place called Mickey's Appetizer.
Explain to her what that mission was with the restaurant, because it was a new concept.
Back in those days, there weren't appetizers. Nobody knew what mozzarella sticks were and zucchini sticks and things of that nature. So when I moved back to New York, I seen that concept in Las Vegas. I said, this was a great idea. And my dad was going to sell a restaurant and bar that he had. I told him, don't sell it. I'm coming back home. I have got a great concept.
Yeah.
And we ran with it.
And how long did that concept last?
About 2 years. And
then everyone had appetizers.
Everyone had appetizers. I was getting a little bit burnt out. In those days, the bars used to be open until 4 in the morning.
That'll kill you.
Yes.
That'll kill you.
Yes.
Now, you briefly mentioned, Michael, that you were a dealer in Vegas.
Yes.
Everyone, I guess, fantasizes about having that experience at one time or another in their life. Explain to us what it was like for you.
Honestly, it was like a kid in a candy store at 22 years old. I went out to Las Vegas from Brooklyn.
Yes.
And I was fortunate enough to run in a circle of people that were very familiar. I ran with Jilly Rizzo's son, Willie. Him and I were very close. We lived together for 5 years.
Right. And Steve Sharippa was a friend of yours?
Steve and I are very close friends. I moved out.
And he was in Vegas with you.
A couple months later, he moved out. We lived in the same apartment complex.
Right. And you started downtown as a blackjack dealer?
As a crap dealer.
As a crap. Tell us how the progression went.
Well, I went to school for about 6 to 8 weeks to learn the games.
How to do it.
And then you have to go work downtown. Right. $200 a week in those days. I spent about 10, 11 months downtown. And then my dad knew somebody uptown and was able to get me a job.
What hotel?
In those days, it was the Dunes Hotel. Very famous country club. Yes,
Doesn't it have a golf course as well?
It did in those days. Now it's the Bellagio.
Now it's the Bellagio. Yeah. And you were a crap
dealer.
Is that what they call that?
Yes. Yes.
And you were making how much?
Honestly, in those days, anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000 a week. Now that's close to 40 years ago.
And you survived that.
I survived that.
Okay.
Yeah.
with all this good fortune in Vegas, why would you come back to New York?
Quite honestly, it got a little old. You know,
Really?
the hours, working 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was getting old. And the industry was changing as well.
Was it?
You know, in those days, we declared how many tips we made on our own, and the government wanted to know what was going on, the state wanted to know what was going on.
And now it became more corporate as well.
It became more corporate,
Yeah.
and I was there in the heyday when you can call somebody up and say, we're coming to see Sinatra tonight, could you get me tickets? And they say yes.
And then you would reciprocate if you
Absolutely.
had something at the Dunes.
Absolutely.
That's how it was back in the day.
In the day, it was like
Right.
that, yes.
But as a dealer, I would think you learn a lot about people that would help you in business.
Absolutely. You got to meet a lot of different people. I mean, I met people from all walks of life. I met
bet.
actors, baseball players, football
Yeah,
players,
yeah.
businessmen, especially out of New York, because the Dunes was known for its New York junkets. A junket is a plane load of people who came to gamble.
Yeah. Well, what would you say some of the things that you learn about human nature in that environment from watching people of all walks of life come and play?
Be a good listener. That's probably the biggest lesson I made.
Yeah.
I had, definitely without a doubt.
Just to talk, what do you mean be a good listener? What do you mean by that?
Well, in those days, you know, you hung around all kinds of people.
Yes, yes.
So you had to speak little and listen a whole lot. And, you know, be careful what you said.
Okay.
But I did. I learned a lot from a lot of different people, and I think I took those skills and moved them into business as years went on.
Right, because it sounds like trust, loyalty all come into play.
Respect, a big word.
And respect.
Where I come from, yes.
Right. It's these are arts that we're kind of losing these days, aren't we?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
But not in those days.
Not in those days.
But that's a great foundation for you when you entered your different businesses.
Oh, without a doubt. It certainly was a great foundation.
It has helped you.
It is tremendously.
Yeah, as an entrepreneur currently, and I've been to your restaurant, which is, we're going to talk about that in a second. It's called Michael's Martinis and Meatballs. We just had an affair there, which is excellent.
Yes.
But I will say that the meatballs are excellent.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And if they weren't, we'd have a problem.
Well, listen, you need to have good meatballs, especially in Staten Island.
Yeah, well, how could you name the place Martinis and Meatballs and not have good meatballs?
Absolutely,
That
I
would be
agree.
a disgrace, right? But they are very good.
Thank you.
But my question, I'm teasing you a little bit, but how did you come up with that, the concept and the name?
Well, my girlfriend Margaret and I are partners.
Yes.
And
she kind of runs the place.
she does. We do
Yes.
it together. And, you know, we had an idea. We wanted to put something together on Staten Island that was unique. More on an appetize base, where somebody can come and get a cocktail and have a choice of variety of appetizers. So we have 30 different martinis and 35 different appetizers.
Yeah.
And we were kicking around the idea, and then we had the idea, and then we were looking for a name, and we were going back and forth. And I even thought about using Mickey's Appetizer again. 30 years later.
Yeah, instead you decided to go with
Well, I'll tell you exactly
Michael's
what happened.
Martinis and Meatballs.
I was driving in the car one day, got a text, pulled over. I says, let me look, it's Margaret. And she sends me a text, Michael's Martinis and Meatballs.
She had it.
And I said, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And while we're in this interview, may I recommend the coconut martini?
Absolutely, it's one of our biggest sellers.
It is unbelievable.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I don't know if I've ever had one anyplace else that was so scrumptious, you know. But do other people make coconut martinis, or is this something that you developed?
Well, we wanted a big menu as far as martinis, so we had some people come in. One of my managers from Paco's, her name is Diane.
And Paco's is a Mexican restaurant?
Paco's Mexican Bistro in Staten
Which is right
Island.
down the street.
And she came in and she helped us put all these different drinks together.
Okay, and I have to ask you this question. So I mentioned it to you either that night or the night afterwards that we had our affair at your place. Okay. And that was, sincerely, the people who work for you, they're not only really good, but they're well trained and they're appropriate and they just do everything with personality. They just seem to be perfect for that environment. How does that happen? Because very seldom do you see a place where you feel that way.
Well, first and foremost, I feel blessed to have them.
Wow.
And I think, honestly speaking, I think that Margaret and I are just really fair and honest. We're hardworking people. We don't we treat people with respect, and we get the same thing back. I think it goes a long way.
Right,
it goes back to the early days.
Yeah. Because if they're not happy, you're not going to get the best out of them. Right?
It has to be a win-win. It can't be win-lose.
Okay.
Never works.
All right. Well, you should, I guess, keep that secret to yourself, because most places don't have that kind of environment that everyone is working together and are happy. And I noticed that immediately at your place. Now, tell us a little about Paco's, because we haven't really talked about it.
Well, Paco's is a unique restaurant, I must tell you. We put that up together about 4 years ago, and close to the hospitals, you know, Staten Island University
right
Hospital.
Down the street, yeah.
And I knew the neighborhood needed something like that, a lot of Italian restaurants. And
yes.
everyone told me I was crazy, but I knew it would be a great idea. I had this vision, follow the vision, and it opened up, thank God, it's been an instant success. We had a little bit of a bump with Sandy, unfortunately.
You opened up 3 weeks prior. Was it 3 months?
Actually, it was about 3 or 4 months before Sandy. Yeah.
And that, were you underwater?
We were a couple blocks from the water. We were one of the very few places that were able to reopen. We opened up about, I guess it was about 3 or 4 weeks later.
Okay.
But we were grateful. We tried to help the community out. And so it was an experience.
Yep. And you also have another business, which is the cabinet business. And you mentioned something briefly prior to us coming on camera, is that after Sandy, yeah, you had a lot of business, but you made sure that the prices remained low so that you could help people.
Yeah, we definitely didn't want to price gouge. That's not something you want to do.
Yep.
And we tried to help out the community as far as giving them fair prices, donating some time. And we did that, and I'm proud of that.
As an entrepreneur, running Cabinet Factory, 2 restaurants, what do you consider to be among your biggest challenges as an entrepreneur?
I guess the biggest challenge is keeping everyone happy. I mean, it sometimes could be difficult. It could sometimes be like a guidance counselor.
Or a psychologist.
Yeah, you really do have to practice people skills.
Or a psychiatrist.
I prefer saying a psychologist. It sounds better. But at the end of the day, it's about good people skills.
And keeping
it's about
people happy.
You know, being selfless, but at the same time, you know, treating them with respect, but getting the same respect in return.
It sounds like being married.
Sort of.
What drove you, Michael, and inspired you to venture into the restaurant business? A lot of people say, hey, it's a full-time, 24/7 business. It's not easy.
It's not easy, but
what inspired you?
People.
Simple.
Really people. I love working with people, and I have a passion for opening up businesses, and anything I could do to help people, whether it's serving food, serving cabinets, building cabinets, or helping people in a network marketing business, I like to do it.
Right, and you are a true entrepreneur, and as such, do you have any new business ventures that you're looking at currently and in the future?
Well, presently working with my son and his future fiance, and we're in a network marketing business, and we deal with services, and we help people save money on services and make money.
Okay.
And that's exciting because...
And that must be a growing business.
It's absolutely, it's global. It's a global business,
Global,
24 foreign countries. And so I like to stay busy with that stuff.
Yeah. Who do you look upon? Because how many years you've been in business now?
Over 35.
Okay. Who do you look upon as a role model in the business world?
You know, my whole life, my dad was my role model. You know, he was just a type of guy that was very, very well known in his community. People loved him. He was a great host.
Right.
And I learned a lot from him. That inspired me from the very beginning. And to tell you the truth, I read a lot. I like to read a lot.
And you learn from what you're reading.
Yes, I do.
And I think a lot of people can learn from you too. Because when we were there and I watched you and Margaret move around that night, what I did notice, you went around to almost everybody that was there that night and introduced yourself and tried to make them feel at home.
Well, that's what we do. Margaret and I make a great team.
Yes.
We're interested in people having a good time. We need to interact with the people.
Yes.
We need to get the feedback, so if something's not right, we know how to make it right.
Right. And it's obvious that you enjoy what you're doing, and that's the key to success, isn't it?
We both love it.
Yeah. What's the best piece of advice, Michael, that you can share with young aspiring entrepreneurs who have yet to get started, but they're thinking about going?
It's a great question. Desire. Everybody has desire, but you need something else with desire. If everybody just could be successful just because they have a desire, everybody would have what they want.
Right.
But along with desire comes commitment.
Ah.
And you have to surrender to that passion. You have to make that commitment because it's not always good times. The good times, the bad times. A lot of people quit during the bad times.
They give up.
They give up.
Giving up is easy, isn't it?
It is very easy.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't work. You need to keep that vision. You know, just because people go to college and quit doesn't mean college doesn't work.
Well
Same
said.
thing with the gym.
When you sit back and reflect, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?
Honestly, I see myself working in the network marketing business. I really do.
Backing off of these other businesses, or just let them run on cruise control?
Yes, because the business that I work with is based on residual income. And at my age, I'm not no spring chicken any longer. I need a residual income. And I like getting paid while I sleep. And I can do that with network marketing in the company I'm dealing with.
Yes, because you can get paid from people all over the world, right?
Actually, I get paid on people's efforts. They have to pay bills. I get residual income. What's better than that?
It sounds great. So once again, I want to say, Michael Dellamonica, you are a true entrepreneur. Right now you have 2 restaurants on Staten Island, and they are?
Michael's Martinis and Meatballs, Paco's Mexican Bistro and Tequila Bar.
Both on Highland Boulevard on Staten Island, and the Cabinet Factory, which is
the Cabinet Factory on Highland Boulevard in Staten Island, and on 14th Avenue in Brooklyn.
Well, and I'm sure you'll have new businesses coming up shortly. And I just want to say one more time, thanks for sitting down with us on Business Profiles. I've been to your restaurant, Michael's Martinis and Meatballs. Recommend the coconut martini, and keep up the great work because you're doing a good job in all of those ventures. And best of luck in the future.
Thank you for having me, Mickey.
Been my pleasure.
My pleasure indeed.